Good morning, open heart. Happy Sunday, happy July, happy summer, happy heat and humidity. I am happy to be here. And so I bless you. I greet you. And I see God in you. And let us begin. Our July theme is poise and power. And my talk title is Got Faith? Our talk text comes from the narrative that is presented in the New Testament. The story is known as Jesus Calms the Storm, and there's a version in Mark and Matthew. And our talk text today comes from the Mark narrative, Mark 4:39 and 40. Then he, master teacher, arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, the disciples in the boat with him, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" My talk today was inspired by the scripture above. How is it that you have no faith? And so, do you have faith? It brought to mind the milk campaign from the past. Got milk. And so that campaign involved people like Venus and Serena. This very sexy picture of Dennis Rodman, NBA player. My queen sister Virgo, Beyonce, and then even someone who is lactose intolerant, Whoopi Goldberg. And of course, the evidence that you've got milk is your milk mustache. And of course, the campaign would go on that your strong bones and your healthy body are all aspects of evidence that you got milk or got some calcium and some dairy. Well, my proposition today is that when it comes to faith, there should be some evidence. And so our theme this month got me thinking more about that poise and power, especially that statement that says, regardless of the storms around me, or regardless of storms around me. And it got me thinking about storms and faith, especially when Jesus is awakened from in the midst of this storm and he comes up and he takes care of it. And we can get focused and fixated on, look at Jesus, the magical man. But it's not Jesus, the magical man, that is the focus. It is his statement. Why do you have no faith? And so that storm, or what my tarot love community would call the tower moment, it is those moments that we have the capacity, the best opportunity to demonstrate our faith. And so you can see whether storms are going about or this tower is lightning, very, very frightening, and just stuff all jacked up. And so this is the time to apply our faith. These are the moments where our words and behavior can demonstrate our level of faith. And we see that when Master Teacher Jesus asked them, how is it that you have no faith? So their words and their behavior of freaking out in the storm and running down to the wherever Master Teacher Jesus was in the ship and being like, wake up, dude, demonstrated that they had no faith. And so we, as people of the Spirit, people who are living our divine lives and creating and living our best lives, our storms, our tower moments are the best times to apply our faith. So what does an example of applying our faith look like? Well, here's a biblical example. One of my favorite stories is the woman with the issue of blood. A woman who at the time of Jesus had some kind of bleeding issue. She spent 12 years, or Luke, I think, said 18 years. So this woman wanted to be whole. She wanted healing. And so she spent all her money at the doctors with no result. And then word got around, or someone told her, so she saw on the internet, right? Someone told her about this man who was healing people. And so how does her faith go? She had to defy the rules of her religion, defy the rules of her society, defy the rules of her gender role. She had to believe against the odds. The doctors had already told her, and her money spent, and the doctors were never helping her, but she still had to believe against the odds. And then lastly, she had to put herself in the place for healing. And so that is why when she is healed, and she crawls on the ground, or however she got around and touched the hem of Master Teacher's garment, his priestly robes, or his rabbinical robes, that there was healing. And he won't let her leave. She's trying to slink out. It's like, And he turns to her and says, my daughter, He connects with her as family. Your faith. How did he know she had faith? Because her behavior demonstrated that. And the thought process that was obviously behind that behavior. And what is a modern day example of faith? Well, my first Sunday at Open Heart Spiritual Center was in July of 2019. And what I didn't know was that my first Sunday there was John's first Sunday returning from his medical journey. I'll put it that way. So for those of you who do know and those who don't know, John in December of 2018 had an aortic valve aneurysm type A surgery. If he had a type B, wouldn't have been a problem, but he had a type A surgery. Went home, things were cool, and 2 weeks or so later, because his birthday's January 5th, he was back in the hospital on death's door, septic and having some sort of bowel obstruction issue. But the man is here today. Why? Lots of reasons, but number one, he had a foundation of faith from his queen mother, Yvonne Gilmore, and from the faith of his father, Bishop Gilmore, from the faith of his children, believing, knowing that he could be strong, from the faith of his sister and brother-in-law, Joan and Jerome, and from his wife, Emma, holding faith, having that belief that no matter what the diagnosis was from the doctors, the prognosis was, we are healed, whole, and perfect, and divinely so. We are divine health. And they held that image for him, and this spiritual center held that image and held together. You know that old saying, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. So you knock out the pastor and usually the congregations fall apart. But that faith, that community held together, held that vision, their behavior of the congregation staying together, of John plugging away, is like, no, you're not going to take me out now, and of his family, the foundation laid by his parents and stood upon those shoulders by his siblings, his brother-in-law, and his children, his wife. That is faith, believing. Now, doing all the things they need to do, make sure he's going to therapy and taking his medicine and having his visits, but the faith was, he is whole, and we are ready to see him embody that. What is a personal example of faith? Well, every year I go to the doctor because that's the way my mother brought me up, and I get my physical, and I have my mammogram every year, and this year they saw something in my mammogram. So the young resident, doctor in training, a resident came in, and he tells me, basically, you got a papilloma in there. He started saying all this medical stuff. So first I said, Billy, you got to come back. No matter what he's saying, divine health is yours. So I came back and I'm like, dude, I did just like that. Tell me again, minus all the medical blah, blah. So he got a papilloma, which is something that sits in your milk ducts. It's very common. And his response was to just cut him out. So they sent me to the breast cancer surgeon, or the surgeon who deals with your boobs, right? And she's like, we don't just cut stuff out. I'm like, good. She says, so I want you to have a diagnostic mammogram, and we're going to do a ultrasound. I need more pictures. I really need to see what's happening. Well, after that, they found 3 spots, and there was traffic going to it, blood, and they're like, it could still just be the papilloma and be benign, but there could be abnormal cells in there, so you have to do a biopsy. So then I went in, and shout out to Baptist, the Women's Center on Humphreys, comforting, caring, so professional. What a beautiful day, even in the midst of that tower moment, to have my daughter by my side. Wouldn't let me hold my purse, help me get undressed, stay there with me. I mean, actually, I told her, well, Gail can take me. And she's like, no, that's my daughterly duty. I'm going to do that. And so even in that storm, the support of my family, Gail, like, tell me the minute you find out anything. And so, here we go, you're gonna find out, it's gonna come in your my chart, blah, blah. And so when the results came, I was nervous. I'm not gonna be fronting like, I was a queen of faith. But I already had told my mother, it doesn't matter what they say, cancer or no. No, okay, we move forward. Cancer, next steps. Where do we need to bring the healing? So I was good to go. So grateful to have read the report and then spoke with my doctor. No abnormal cells, no cancer, and no malignancy. But again, the foundation, that consciousness, that health is mine. and that I can embody that. And had they said cancer, health would still be mine, and we're going to go through the process to embody and bring that health forward. And so let's talk about, do you got some faith? How do you embody that? How do you apply it? How do you live it? What do we need in our toolkits to bring faith? And so, one, it's a mindset and it's an action. So let's talk about the first mindset, is that storms don't last forever. I think sometimes we can be in the midst of the storm and just like, oh Lord, is it going on here? Okay, storms don't last forever. And they had a horrible ice storm here in Memphis in 1994, but we're still not in the midst of the storm because storms don't last forever. They had a major snowstorm, March 21st to the 23rd in 1968 in Memphis. But storms don't last forever. So having the mindset that this tower moment or this storm is not going to last forever, I'm not going to drown in the storm, I'm not going to get washed away, this will not last forever. And the divine right action that goes with that mindset is I have control over myself. That you can't calm the storm, so stop trying. But what you and I can do is calm ourselves with the knowing that this storm will pass. Just like I've said before, that you can't see your reflection in boiling water. You've got to remove the heat, let the situation cool down, and then in that still water, I am able to see our reflection. It's in that calm and centered place where I know that I have control. You know that you have control over your actions, reactions, and interactions in this moment. And then based on the mindset, knowing that this is not going to last forever, you can then move forward applying your faith. What is the next mindset? One of the things when I was talking to John about putting this sermon together, I said, I didn't want to use the word test your faith because it makes it seem like, God's out to get you, right? But to know that storms are not against you. Don't let them dim your faith. That in the storms, it isn't a time to dim your faith, but it is a time to bend towards God, to have the mindset that this is not about dimming my faith. I'm not being tested. I'm not being punished. John was telling me that when some people came to pray for him, they're like, and Lord, forgive him of any sins. Like he's not in the hospital because he committed some sin. Sheesh. All right, Bella, calm down. That's just like ridiculous. Storms come in our life to help us bend closer to the divine within, to connect more with our divine self. And if we have that mindset, we can then have the divine right action, which is the knowing that without rain, nothing grows. So we can embrace the storm. Say, bring it on, because I know that I can stand. That with the divine within me, with my support system, with the faith of my family, be it your biological or your chosen family, I will get through this. I know how to react, interact, and act inspired by divine action, by my intuition, and by my continued studies of prayer and meditation. My daily spiritual practice enacted will help me get through this storm. Not just survive, but thrive. What is the last mindset? Is that not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear the path. Sometimes you're in your faith and your intuition and your guides are talking to you about get rid of this, move away from this relationship, let go of these things. And we're just like, oh, no, I'm familiar with this. I know what to do with this. And the storm says, okay, look, whoosh. Now it's moved out the way. Now you can walk forward, unfettered. The baggage is gone. The histrionics is gone. The toxicity is gone. So have the mindset that this storm that you and I find ourselves in, or that may be around us, or may be within, if we allow it and open our hearts, this can be a storm that clears the path. And what is the divine right action? Well, one is that when storms of life are pouring down upon us, we have to muster the courage to dance and bless the things that life has given us. Sometimes we get so fixated on the storm that we forget the good things that we have. So in the midst of the storm, take a step back and say, what is working? What did okay, this is working, this is working, this is working. What did I do? Who am I interacting with? What are the choices that I'm thinking? What am I thinking that I can then bring that and apply it to this situation? Don't wait for the storms of life to pass. Brothers and sisters, family, we've got to learn to dance in the rain. We've got to learn to dance in the rain and say, I know that all things are working together for my good. And I end with this quote. We all face storms in life. Some are more difficult than others, but we all go through trials and tribulation. And that is why we have the gift of faith. Our faith, God faith. Invest in our faith. What are we doing to test our faith, to grow our faith, to anchor our faith? Is that a part of your and my daily spiritual practice? And it should be, so that when the storms come and the water's overflowing, the boat is rocking, we can turn to the Christ within and say to ourselves, peace, be still. And from that place of peace, navigate the storms. Have a blessed and beautiful Sunday. Namaste. Blessings.